Hey, morena koutou. Morena, everybody. Welcome to Tawa School Storytime for this first day of term two. I know that things look a little bit funny at the moment because the fact that you're not actually at school, and I have to say, I do miss seeing all of you guys and being able to hang out with you and have our chats and high fives at the end of the day and all that kind of thing. But I know that your teachers have got some awesome learning happening for all you Tawa School students, which is really great. But welcome to everybody who's joining us. All right, today we're going to be reading for our younger kids A Windy Day Walk, which, sometimes while we've been in lockdown, we've been doing some exercise, and it has certainly been windy. And then we're going to continue on and hopefully finish for Finley and Gran. Let's get some fresh air. Let's walk in the sand. But along came that cheeky old Wellington wind and snatched Finley's hat. Off it went with a spin. The hat tumbled and twisted, it fluttered and flitted, and though Finley chased it, he just couldn't get it. "Come back," shouted Finley, feeling puffed and frustrated. Soon the hat tumbled back to the spot where Gran waited. The seagulls were wobbling and weaving away in the Wellington wind. What a gusty old day. Wow, look at those planes. They don't wobble at all because planes are so big and birds are so small. "Yippee!" shouted Finley as he spread his arms wide. "Look at me, I'm a plane. I can soar through the sky." But along came that naughty old Wellington breeze and toppled poor Finley. Down he fell on his knees. "Boo-hoo!" cried Finley. "This isn't fun. I want to go home and be with my mum." A yacht whizzed by with its sails full of wind. "Yachties love this weather," said Gran with a grin. "Oh, look, there's a kite up there in the blue. See it dipping and dancing. I'd like a kite too." Then along came that cheeky old Wellington wind, but Finley just stood with a big happy grin because he didn't like the wind at first, but now he sees it's fun. Oh no, there goes his hat again. Run, Finley, run. And that's written by a Wellington author who lives in Eastbourne. And I'm sure that we've had lots of times where we've been playing in the playground and our hats have gone absolutely flying and we've gone chasing them. All right. I had to turn the book around. It was upside down. We're going to continue on reading Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I'm going to aim to, finish it today. I'm feeling a bit sneezy, so I really hope that I don't have a sneezing fit halfway through the story. Okay, chapter 15 is Bean's Secret Cider Cellar. Try saying that real fast. Secret cider cellar, secret cider cellar. All right. Mr. Fox examined the wall carefully. He saw that the cement between the bricks was old and crumbly. As he loosened a brick without much trouble and pulled it away, suddenly, out from the hole where the brick had been, there popped a small, sharp face with whiskers. "Go away!" it snapped. "You can't come in here, it's private." "Good Lord," said Badger, "it's Rat." "You saucy beast," said Mr. Fox. "I should have guessed we'd find you down here somewhere." "Go away," shrieked Rat. "Go on, beat it. This is my private pitch." "Be quiet," said Mr. Fox. "I will not be quiet," shrieked Rat. "This is my place. I got here first." Mr. Fox gave a brilliant smile, flashing his white teeth. "My dear Rat," he said softly, "I am a hungry fellow, and if you don't hop it quickly, I shall eat you in one gulp." That did it. Rat popped fast out of sight. Mr. Fox laughed and began pulling more bricks out of the wall. When he had made a biggish hole, he crept through it. Badger and the smallest fox followed him in. They found themselves in a vast, damp, gloomy cellar. "This is it!" cried Mr. Fox. "This is what?" said Badger. "The place is empty." "Where are the turkeys?" asked the smallest fox, staring into the gloom. "I thought Bean was a turkey man." "He is a turkey man," said Mr. Fox, "but we're not after turkeys now. We've got plenty of food." "Then what do we need, Dad?" "Take a good look around. said Mr. Fox. "Don't you see anything that interests you?" Badger and the smallest fox peered into the half-darkness. As their eyes became accustomed to the gloom, they began to see what looked like a whole lot of big glass jars standing upon shelves around the walls. They went closer. They were jars. There were hundreds of them, and upon each one was written the word cider. The smallest fox leapt high in the air. "Oh, Dad," he cried, "look what we've found. It's cider." "Exactly," said Mr. Fox. "Tremendous," shouted Badger. "Bean's secret cider cellar," said Mr. Fox. "But go carefully, my dears. Don't make a noise. This cellar is right underneath the farmhouse itself," said Mr. Fox. While they were talking, the smallest fox had sneaked a jar off the shelf and had taken a gulp. "Wow," he gasped. "Wowee!" You must understand that this was not the ordinary weak fizzy cider one buys in the store. It was the real stuff, a home-brewed fiery liquor that burned in your throat and boiled in your stomach. "Oh!" gasped the smallest fox. "This is some cider." "That's quite enough of that," said Mr. Fox, grabbing the jar and putting it to his own lips. He took a tremendous gulp. "It's miraculous," he whispered, fighting for breath. "It's fabulous. It's beautiful." "It's my turn," said Badger, taking the jar and tilting his head well back. The cider gurgled and bubbled down his throat. It's like melted gold," he gasped. "Oh, Foxy, it's like drinking sunbeams and rainbows." "You're poaching," screeched Rat. "Put that down at once. There'll be none left for me." Rat was perched upon the highest shelf in the cellar, peering out from behind a huge jar. There was a small rubber tube inserted in the neck of the jar, and Rat was using the tube to suck out the cider. "You're drunk," said Mr. Fox. "Mind your own business," shrieked Rat. "And if you great clumsy brutes come messing about near, you will all get caught. Get out and leave me to sip my cider in peace." At that moment, they heard a woman's voice calling out in the house above them. "Hurry up and get that cider, Mabel," the voice called. Excuse me. "You know, Mr. Bean doesn't like to be kept waiting, especially when he's been out there all night in a tent." The animals froze. They stayed absolutely still. Their ears pricked, their bodies tense. Then they heard the sound of a door being opened. The door was at the top flight of the stone steps leading down from the house to the cellar. And now someone was starting to come down those steps. Chapter 16. The Woman. "Quick," said Mr. Fox, "hide." He and Badger and the smallest fox jumped up onto a shelf and crouched behind a row of big cider jars. Peering around the jars, they saw a huge woman coming down into the cellar. At the foot of the steps, the woman paused, looked right, looked left. Then she turned and headed straight for the place where Mr. Fox and Badger and the smallest fox were hiding. She stopped right in front of them. The only thing between her and them was a row of cider jars. She was so close, Mr. Fox could hear the sound of her breathing. Peeping through the crack between two bottles, he noticed that she was carrying a big rolling pin in one hand. "How many will he want this time, Mrs. Bean?" the woman shouted. And from the top of the steps, the other woman called back, "Bring up 2 or 3 jars." "He drank 4 yesterday, Mrs. Bean." "Yes, but he won't want that many today because he's not going to be up there for more than a few hours. He says the fox is bound to make a run for it this morning. I can't possibly stay down another day without food." The woman in the cellar reached out and lifted a jar of cider from the shelf. The jar she took was next to the one behind which Mr. Fox was crouching. "I'll be glad when that rotten brute is killed and strung up on the front porch," she called out. "And by the way, Mrs. Bean, your husband promised I could have his tail as a souvenir." "The tail's been shot all to pieces," said the voice from upstairs. "Didn't you know that?" "You mean it's ruined?" "Of course it's ruined. They shot the tail but missed the fox." "Oh, heck," said the big woman. "I did so want that tail." "You can have the head instead, Mabel. You can get it stuffed and hang it in your bedroom wall. Hurry up now with that cider." "Yes, ma'am, I'm coming," said the big woman. And then she took a second jar from the shelf. "If she takes one more, she'll see us," thought Mr. Fox. He could feel the smallest fox's body pressed tight against his own, quivering with excitement. "Will 2 be enough, Mrs. Bean, or shall I take 3? "My goodness, Mabel, I don't care so long as you get a move on." "Then 2 it is," said the huge woman, speaking to herself now. "He drinks too much anyway." Carrying a jar in each hand and with the rolling pin tucked under one arm, she walked away across the cellar. At the foot of the steps, she paused and looked around, sniffing the air. "There's rats down here," said Mrs. Bean. "I can smell them." "Then poison them, woman, poison them. You know where the poison's kept." "Yes, ma'am," Mabel said. She climbed slowly out of the sight of the steps. The door slammed. "Quick," said Mr. Fox. "Grab a jar each and run for it." Rat stood on his high shelf and shrieked, "What did I tell you? You nearly got nabbed, didn't you? You nearly gave the game away. You keep out of here from now on. I don't want you around. This is my place." "You," said Mr. Fox, "are going to be poisoned." "Poppycock," said Rat. "I sit up here and watch her putting the stuff down. She'll never get me." Mr. Fox and Badger and the smallest fox ran across the cellar, clutching a gallon jar each. "Goodbye, Rat," they called out as they disappeared through the hole. "Thanks for the lovely cider." "Thieves!" shrieked Rat. "Robbers, bandits, burglars!" Chapter 17. The Great Feast. Back in the tunnel, they paused so that Mr. Fox could brick up the hole in the wall. He was humming to himself as he put the bricks back in place. "I can still taste that glorious cider," he said. "What an impudent fellow Rat is." "He has bad manners," Badger said. "All rats have bad manners. I've never met a polite rat yet." "And he drinks too much," said Mr. Fox, putting the last brick in place. "There we are. Now home to the feast." They grabbed their jars of cider and off they went. Mr. Fox was in front, the smallest fox came next, and Badger last. Along the tunnel they flew, past the turning that led to Bunce's mighty storehouse, past Bogger's chicken house number 1, and then up the long stretch towards the place where they knew Mrs. Fox would be waiting. "Keep it up, my darlings," shouted Mr. Fox. "We'll be there soon. Think what's waiting for us at the other end, and just think what we're bringing home with us in these jars. That ought to cheer up poor Mrs. Fox." Mr. Fox sang a little song as he ran. "Home swiftly again I glide, back to my beautiful bride. She'll feel not so rotten as soon as she gotten some cider inside her inside." The Badger joined in. "Oh, pride." They were still singing as they rounded the final corner and burst in upon the most wonderful and amazing sight any of them had ever seen. The feast was just beginning. A large dining room had been hollowed out of the earth, and in the middle of it, seated around the huge table, there were no less than 29 animals. There was Mrs. Fox and 3 small foxes, Mrs. Badger and 3 small badgers, Mole and Mrs. Mole and 4 small moles, Rabbit and Mrs. Rabbit and 5 small rabbits, Weasel and Mrs. Weasel and 6 small weasels. The table was covered with chicken and ducks and geese and hams and bacon, and everyone was tucking in to the lovely food. "My darling," cried Mrs. Fox, jumping up and hugging Mr. Fox. "We couldn't wait. Please forgive us." Then she hugged the smallest fox of all, and Mrs. Badger hugged Badger, and everyone hugged everyone else. Amid shouts of joy, the great jars of cider were placed upon the table, and Mr. Fox and Badger and the smallest fox sat down with the others. You must remember, no one had eaten a thing for several days. They were ravenous. So for a while there was no conversation at all. There was only the sound of crunching and chewing as the animals attacked the succulent food. At last Badger stood up. He raised a glass of cider and called out, "A toast! I want you all to stand and drink a toast to our dear friend who has saved our lives this day, Mr. Fox." "To Mr. Fox," they all shouted, standing up and raising their glasses. "To Mr. Fox, long may he live." Then Mrs. Fox got shyly to her feet and said, "I don't want to make a speech. I just want to say one thing, and that is it. And that is this. My husband is a fantastic fox." Everyone clapped and cheered. Then Mr. Fox himself stood up. "This delicious meal," he began, and then he stopped. In the silence that followed, he let fly a tremendous burp. There was laughter and more clapping. "This delicious meal, my friends," he went on, "is by courtesy of Messrs. Boggis, Bunce and Bean." More cheering and laughing. "And I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have." He let fly another colossal belch. "Better out than in," said Badger. "Thank you," said Mr. Fox, grinning hugely. "But now, my friends, let us be serious. Let us think of tomorrow and the next day and the days after that. If we go out, we'll be killed, right?" "Right," they shouted. "We'll be shot before we've got a yard," said Badger. "Exactly," said Mr. Fox. But who wants to go out anyway? Let me ask you that. We're all diggers, every one of us. We hate the outside. The outside is full of enemies. We only go out because we have to find food for our families. But now, my friends, we have an entirely new setup. We have a safe tunnel leading to 3 of the finest stores in the world. "We do indeed," said Badger. "I've seen them." And you know what this means, said Mr. Fox. It means that none of us need to go out into the open again. There was a buzz of excitement around the table. Forever, they cried. My goodness, how marvelous. And Rabbit said to Mrs. Rabbit, my dear, just think we're never going to get shot at again in our lives. We will make, said Mr. Fox, a little underground village with streets and houses on each side, separate houses for badgers and moles and rabbits and weasels and foxes, and every day I'll go shopping for you all, and every day we will eat like kings. The cheering that followed the speech went on for many minutes. Chapter 18. Still waiting. Outside the fox's hole sat Boggis, Bunce, and Bean. Beside their tents were their guns on their laps. Water was trickling down the necks of the three men and into their shoes. We won't stay down here much longer now, Boggis said. The brute must be famished, Bunce said. That's right, Bean said. He'll be making a dash for it any moment. Keep your guns handy. They sat there by the hole, waiting for the fox to come out. And so, as far as I know, they are still waiting. Well, that's the end of Fantastic Mr. Fox. I'll have to think of another book that I can start reading to you all from tomorrow. But I hope you have a fantastic day. Do some awesome learning from home. Make sure that you've got any questions. Ask your teachers so they can help you. And you guys will catch up with you all tomorrow. Ka kite anō.